Welcome to this edition of Weather to Watch. I would say that pockets of heavy rain and possible flooding are the main action for the next 5 days as we take a look at the lower 48. While there are some severe weather threats over the next couple of days, I thought it was interesting to note that there are a lot of fairly moderate areas of heavy rain potential that are kind of congregating across the nation's midsection for the next 5 days, and we'll review most of those here coming up in individual slides. Also, some pretty heavy rains down in South Florida that need to be watched as well. So let's take a look at the national satellite view, the visible satellite, as we are on the second day of June here. Beautiful weather. Still see some of that Canadian wildfire smoke tracing its way through the Carolinas, down through Illinois. We see weather disturbances. There's a couple. There's this energetic moisture-driven wave at the end of a front down there in Florida, producing some heavy rain. We have a spiral in the upper atmosphere, and we also have a front moving through here. So let's detail all those by looking at the 500 millibar flow. And there's that little spiral over the Four Corners region. And then there's a dip in the jet stream right here that's helping to support that frontal boundary as moving through the Dakotas right now. And then just a weak little upper level disturbance that's helping to energize the end of a front down there in Florida, and it's bringing that heavy rain potential to South Florida. On the surface map, we have that frontal boundary here through the northern plains. We have a warm front connecting up to a weak area of low pressure in the Nebraska Panhandle. Probably the winner in terms of weather is in the northeast. The most interesting changes in weather, though, are across the northern plains at this hour. We take a look at the station plots. You can see dew points are in the low 70s in Dallas and in Shreveport and also in Oklahoma City, and getting up close to 70 around Dodge. Temperatures are recovering nicely. Very summer-like air with 90 in Oklahoma City over a 73 dew point. That's a little on the muggy side, a little heavy, but they do have a nice little southwest wind. If you're wondering how to read that, the wind always follows the line like that. And then these are just additive. So a larger one is 10 knots and a smaller one is 5. So that's a 15 knot wind, about 17 miles per hour out of the southeast. So there's your station plot review for today. Copious amounts of rain in South Florida with a squall line approaching that area. A little bit of a severe weather risk down there, too. Active lines of showers and thunderstorms. One little batch behind the front, another one active right along the front, and some dry line activity. And also that's being engaged by that upper level low that we showed you right there. So it's bringing and spreading some showers and thunderstorms curving from southeast Colorado through the panhandles of Florida and also down into Texas. They upgraded this in the late morning upgrade to a level 3 out of 5 severe weather risk there through the Texas Panhandle up into Kansas, including the Oklahoma Panhandle region, and the thunderstorms are active there right now. But a large area of some thunderstorm activity, level 1, goes all the way from northern Minnesota all the way down to Mexico. So a long area, you can see the curvature of the front, and you can see the influence of that upper level low as it kind of spins things up into Kansas here, creating a little bit more of a risk there. The tornado risk, though, still is only in Nebraska, so they're not real excited about that squall line in the Texas Panhandle doing much tornadically, but they are interested in hail and high winds with that. And as a matter of fact, there are no tornado watches in effect as of the recording of this, which is right around 5:15 Central Time, but there is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect all up and down the Front Range and into western portions of Kansas, that area there, for today. If you want a more detailed look at what the severe thunderstorm outlooks are for the next 7 days, the one I just showed you is the latest for today, but for the next 7 days, be sure to check out my daily issued video, Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. As I mentioned, we've got some heavy rain potential. The obvious pocket down there in South Florida will continue. That'll just be ongoing. And we have over the next 5 days pretty copious amounts of rain. If you see the first level of red, that's 3. And then the next kind of shading is 4. And then we have 5-inch total showing up in the heart of Oklahoma here for the next 5 days. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Also some pretty heavy amounts in Nebraska, too. The only flood watch in effect right now covers much of central and northern Missouri, eastern Kansas, and a good chunk of central and eastern Oklahoma. Small little areas of Nebraska and New Mexico are also under this. We're going to break down that graphic I showed you at the beginning where it shows the probability of a hazard of heavy rain. And certainly Nebraska wins that tonight, portions of Iowa, South Dakota, and Minnesota as well. Skip to tomorrow. That frontal boundary is very obvious with a heavy rain hazard setting up almost coincided with the severe weather hazard. Then we skip a couple days, but then we go to Friday, and it kind of this yellow area, the next level up, kind of reappears on Friday for, guess what, Oklahoma. They are definitely bearing the brunt of repeated rain over the next couple of days. A very low probability of tropical weather formation here right off the coast of the Carolinas, but that is weak. Very, very low probability of that happening, but worth watching now that we're in hurricane season. And then we also have, 40 to 60% chance of tropical cyclone development south of Mexico proper there. And again, that's over the next few days. We'll look at the 500 millibar forecast. This is using the GFS ensemble. This is the mean of all the runs of a particular time, separated by just a little bit of change in the initial data, and just see how crazy things get. And then they average it all together. What it does is it kind of takes out the outlying model runs, what we refer to as the deterministic models, and kind of gives it a more of a streamlined flow. This works really well, especially if you go more out into the distant time patterns. But let's take a look at the initial pattern here this morning. What you're seeing here, I should say this afternoon, we're seeing a stronger jet stream here across the northern plains. That is what is responsible for that severe weather outlook area there. And then we have this smaller short wave right here. That's what is responsible for that part of the severe weather. So let's see what happens as we move forward with time here. We'll go into, let's pick about, Tuesday in the mid-afternoon. This is where that long severe weather threat exists here. So not surprising, it's on an area of stronger upper level winds, so good shear. There's also a little bit of a shortwave going through here. So yeah, enhanced area of severe weather tomorrow. They may upgrade that. Right now it's at a slight risk. It may have room to go higher. We'll see what happens with the latest updates. Now let's go through the rest of the week here. So this is Thursday about noon right here. You'll notice that while we have a ridge of high pressure down here in Texas really hot, but there's plenty of moisture underneath that. And this little disturbance right here is a jet max, as we refer to those. That'll provide enough shear to organize supercells, and there'll be plenty of moisture left over. So again, I think that Thursday is a day for severe weather out over the Great Plains. Much of these areas that are talked about by the SPC, I think, have room to be upgraded. They're just waiting for a certain level of criteria to happen, and that is what they're supposed to do. And also there's differences in the model runs. That's why I like to use the smoothed out model. Of course, there are different models that are smoothed out, so you could pick those too. I like the Euro. It tends to do its track records a little bit better. But notice what happens here through Friday. This thing just kind of stalls out. There's still a ridge of high pressure in Texas, hot weather for them. It's still this area of stronger winds in the central U.S. So that's going to encourage thunderstorm development, rain development. So heavy rain, severe weather rounds are still going to be possible. As we go through Saturday here about noon right there, it's still there. It's just that the flow changes a little bit so that it's more out of the northwest, maybe slightly. It's actually not a bad severe weather pattern for areas right here. So yeah, this will all be watched very, very carefully. And then as we go into the weekend, that's Sunday right there. Then we change into a more stable flow, at least across the northern plains, and there may be some northwest flow thunderstorms down in the south. But that should end at least this particular round. Although, just for the heck of it, let's just go out and see what this model does in the future here. If we just go through here, we see a lot of jet stream energy next week. This is a really far into the future across the northern plains, but still some inklings of smaller little energy disturbances, smaller short waves down the southern plains. So it remains to be seen. Then there's that wave that develops right there. That could energize the mid part of June. So yeah, there's a lot of things to look at here. Of course, the more I slide that bar to the right, the more laughable it can sometimes become. But that at least gives you a kind of a general idea for about the next 5 to 6 days. On Tuesday, we're looking at still cool in the Central Plains behind that front, with highs only in the 60s in Denver and Dodge City and Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and Omaha. Meanwhile, it'll be 86 degrees in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and 87 in Chicago on Tuesday. So you can see the pockets of above normal area, which is the yellow shades, and the below normal area, the green and blue. Skip 2 days ahead to Thursday. pretty hot in New England with 80 showing up well into the 80s, like around Boston, 86 degrees. And then a little bit cool with that very slow moving offshore sort of low, keeping the rain in that area, and the Carolinas keeping it relatively cool for them. 80s, yes, but cool for them. Still pretty cool in the Central Plains, getting pretty hot up around Oregon and Washington. Then we skip ahead to Saturday. And that's where that frontal boundary stretches out a little bit, and we get these heavy rain episodes and maybe some severe weather episodes as well. So we have this cool area carved out from Ohio back to the heart of Kansas and going south into parts of Oklahoma. And actually, the 6 to 10 a day outlook, which starts on Saturday and goes through Wednesday of next week, shows a pretty cool pocket north of that boundary. Pretty warm out west, pretty high probabilities of both of those happening. And the boundary, the rain boundary, is clear, and it's not going away either. Saturday through Wednesday, still an above normal probability of rain as that front just continues to go absolutely nowhere. As you saw in the jet stream pattern, that is a weakening wind pattern. So wherever the front ends up, it's going to stay because there's probably not much to drive it anywhere. We'll take a look, too, at the June temperature outlook in case you missed that a couple of videos ago, but it's forecast to be pretty hot in the desert Southwest. Warm across most of the country, really, except for New England and maybe parts of the Great Lakes states. And they're forecasting a slightly higher confidence level, not great, that it'll be a little bit wet out east and a little bit dry in the Intermountain West. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.